don't like them. I would say and if you everyone, and I get yeah, I don't do it on purpose. I just do. Yeah, I think it might be.
Can I say something real quick? Could I make a suggestion that we just say the Pledge of Allegiance like a silent prayer instead of everybody talking within our mask? You know.
You ready on the phone?
I am.
Okay, I was just making sure you were here. I didn't want to start without you. Okay.
Thank you, dear.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. We thank you for joining us tonight. We have two separate meetings. Our first is our public hearing for the bill bond. We will get started with our pledge recording, and after the pledge, there will be a moment of silence. Sit back down if you would like to remove your mask, as long as you're socially distant after being accepted. But Mr. Lockhart is going to the pledge meeting. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all.
Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Donna.
President Irwin, Superintendent Hayward, and members of the Board of School Trustees. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to conduct a public hearing on a 2020 general obligation bond issue of $5.35 billion. The proposed bond would be the fourth in a series of short-term bonds that have been issued since 2017. This funding mechanism was strategically planned to offset revenues lost due to circuit breaker tax credits and has provided us the opportunity to maintain and improve our facilities and support our rigorous curriculum. This calendar year, we will complete repayment on the general obligation bonds issued in 2014 for the construction of the Aquatic Center, and will also retire the 2017 general obligation bonds. Being cognizant of the tax rate impact, these retirements provide us with capacity to issue these bonds without a negative tax impact. The notice of this hearing was published as legally required on July 1st, 2020 in the Tribune Star. Pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or sale of bonds, it must hold a public hearing and offer details of the potential projects to the community. This public hearing and the adoption of resolutions presented this evening are the beginning of the legal process, with the resolutions establishing the maximum financial terms for the proposed projects. As Dr. Hayward indicated at the last board meeting, the proceeds of this bond would be used to provide relief to our operations fund, specifically through assistance with our ongoing corporation-wide roof maintenance and paving plans and HVAC improvements at various sites. Additionally, these funds would be used to purchase much-needed technology for students as we work to expand our one-to-one initiative throughout the corporation. Dr. Goller and Doug Miller are here this evening to expand upon how approximately one-half of these bond proceeds will be used to address our curricular needs.
I'm going to just interrupt our presentation real quick so that we can take a roll call board.
Dr. Goller,
Right back over there. Mr. Lockhart.
Here.
Mrs. Lauer. Dr. Powers. Present. Ms. Scott. Present. Mrs. Wise. Present. Mr. Burks.
Present.
Mr. Irwin.
Here. Please continue. Thank you.
thank you with, a big piece of the money there, about $2 million, we would like to purchase, the second round of Chromebooks. As we look back, we purchased 5,500 Chromebooks for our grades 8 through 12. They're on order, they're on their way here. We would like to proceed to grades 3 through 7 to purchase Chromebooks for our students there. We'd like to purchase the same model as we did for our grades 8 to 12. That's the Lenovo 300E. Has the front and rear facing camera. Has the 2-in-1 technology where the device would work as a tablet, as it would a laptop. The device would have a snap-on case and a 4-year warranty, as well as a drop protection, same as we did with our high school and the 8th grade device. We like the Lenovo 300E because it seems to be a durable model, and it's supported by Google through July 2026. So it's a current model. It's currently in production. There is an 8-week back order on it right now. So any devices that would be ordered now would be at least 8 weeks from being ordered from arrival. Any questions there as far as the device goes?
I hope I didn't miss it, but you said that there was a lot that was on back order.
We have ordered the grades 8 through 12 Chromebooks already, and they will be here August 7th. And we are anticipating, hopefully tonight, then we will be able to move forward with grades 3 through 7.
Okay, I thought the upper grades were already in route, so to speak. Okay.
They are, Mrs. Lauer. Then in additional, we like to talk about the Chromebooks and where we are in terms of delivery and professional development. We are pleased that the school corporation has been moving forward with a learning management system, Canvas. Our teachers have been working very hard to study and learn about this new learning management system so that they can create their own online classrooms. For the last 2 months, we've been working with a professional development vendor for training, and June 1st through 5th, we had 151 teachers in grades 3 through 12 participate in that training. Last week, we had 244 teachers in grades 3 through 12 participate in 5 days of Canvas professional development training. The workshops focused on navigating the system, adding content to their courses, developing quizzes, collaboration, communication, and helping students set up their own email accounts. So very excited to have that learning management system in place for when we receive these new devices. Also, our teachers have been working hard on professional development. In May, when our schools were dismissed, teachers experienced 6 hours of professional development around Chromebook navigation, G Suite components, and the Canvas learning management system. Also, we have our teacher leaders that will be in place when school starts for the next 2 years. We'll have a teacher at each building who will be responsible for technology integration. Those teacher leaders will be meeting at the district level with our coaches to learn different strategies for delivering curriculum and how we can keep kids engaged, because that's the piece we're very interested and very excited to make our classrooms the very best places that they can possibly be. So looking forward to professional development, making sure that we are ready. We don't know what will come here in a few weeks, but we want to be prepared for any kind of remote learning, distance learning delivery that we may need to do. So really want to commend our teachers, our principals who've been working very hard to be ready to use those Chromebooks when we have the opportunity to do so.
Also here this evening is Jason Tansel from Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. Baker Tilly has been instrumental in helping our administrative team roll out a strategic borrowing plan while being fiscally responsible to the Vigo County taxpayers. So Jason, I'll now turn the floor over to you for your presentation.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I am going to share my screen before I get started because I have a 7-slide presentation. So I want just to make sure that everybody can see the screen, and I do really appreciate the opportunity to speak before you this evening, especially virtually. We have been cautious, of course, with our current situation, and I just appreciate the opportunity to do this remotely. But with that, as Donna mentioned, my name is Jason Tansel with Baker Tilly, and we serve as the school corporation's municipal advisor, and we have served as the municipal advisor on the general obligation bonds in 2017, 18, 19, as well as the refinancing that took place in 2017. But my role here tonight is to explain the financial impact of the projects being discussed here and how the school corporation could issue a $5,350,000 general obligation bond to pay for these projects while not increasing the debt service tax rate. So with that, I will go to slide 2 here in the presentation. Slide 2 is a visual of the school corporation's already outstanding debt service payments. The school has 5 bonds outstanding as of today, with 2014 general obligation bonds, 2017 general obligation bonds. They refinanced the 2017 first mortgage refunding and approval bonds, and the 2018 and 2019 general obligation bonds. But 2 of those bonds are maturing in 2021, and you can see each individual bond is represented by their own color. The 2014 and 2017 general obligation bonds are falling off in 2021 and come to maturity this year. You can see here on the visual that the bar graphs are stacked on top of each other, and that represents the total annual payments of the school corporation. You can see that in 2021, there is a drop in the annual payments from about $9.5 million to approximately $7 million. It's this drop in the annual payments due to existing bonds coming to term that provides the school corporation with flexibility to potentially bring on another issuance while maintaining the tax rate at that 21-cent level that you see there in 2020. If the school corporation were to not issue any other debt, you can see the drop in the tax rate that would occur in 2021 and 2022, with all debt being repaid by 2026. I do want to make mention here that the school corporation does have a lot of flexibility now and in the future with these falling debt service payments, and that according to Standard & Poor's metrics, this is what they deem as rapid amortization, anything that is 10 years or less. So you do have a lot of bonds that are falling off in the future. Slide 3 is just a schedule of the numbers of the annual payments that you saw on slide 2, where we have discussed here that there are 5 bonds outstanding, and you can see those total annual payments in the far right column at about the $9 million level in 2019 and 2020, with a drop in those annual payments in 21 and all debt being repaid by 2026. And you can see as well that the general obligation bonds of 2014 and 2017 are coming to term this year. The borrowing being discussed here tonight is a general obligation bond. There are a few different type of borrowing mechanisms at the school's disposal. The school has used its building corporation before in the past with the refinance, but the bonds being discussed here tonight are general obligation bonds, which, as you can see, the school has issued before in the past. And there is a limitation to the amount of general obligation bonds that we can have outstanding at one time. And that limitation is 2% of 1/3 of the most recent net assessed value, which for Vigo County Schools would equal approximately $27 million. But we also need to factor in the other outstanding general obligation bonds, which we've listed there below, and the principal amounts outstanding. And once we do that, you can see that currently at its disposal, Vigo County Schools has $16,361,000 of general obligation bonds capacity available to it. So the $5,350,000 bond being discussed here tonight fits well within that limitation. Slide 5 is a table of the pertinent financial characteristics, where again, as we have discussed, the borrowing being considered here tonight is $5,350,000, and that would be approximately $5.2 million of proceeds available for the projects. Right now, we are keeping with the rapid amortization and estimating a repayment term of 3 years and 4 months. And with that repayment term, we would estimate an interest expense of $227,000. I do want to make note here that that interest expense is assuming today's rates plus 1%. Rates have really been still at low levels. We had some volatility in the market, of course, in the March-April timeframe, but interest rates are still very low, and the market has found its footing a little bit for municipal bonds. We are projecting a maximum annual payment of $2,224,000, and the tax rate associated with that maximum annual payment is 5.08 cents. But as we've mentioned before, the school corporation will not be increasing its debt service tax rate in 2021 with the issuance of this bond. We will not be increasing payments above prior levels. So really the main takeaway on this slide is the fact that the estimated debt service tax rate is not anticipated to increase over the 2020 levels of 21.95 cents. And here you can see on slide 6 is a visual of the estimated repayment term of the bonds being considered here tonight, where again, we have a 3-year annual payment, which is represented in the blue bars, and the gray bars represent the already outstanding bonds as we discussed on the prior slides. You can see that in 2021, we are projecting a debt service tax rate of 21.95 cents, while maintaining that fall in annual payments and estimated debt service tax rate in 2022 and thereafter. And my final slide, again, is just the numbers behind the graph on slide 6, but I know that the main takeaway here on slide 6 is just that we are having a 3-year estimated repayment with no increase to the debt service tax rate. With that, that's the final slide that I have, and I would be happy to turn it back over to Donna.
Thank you, Jason. President Irwin, it would be appropriate now to allow the public to comment on our proposal at this time.
Same 5-minute time limit applied. If you have a comment on the general obligation bond before us, I would invite you to come forward. Thank you. Have 5 minutes.
I think it would also be appropriate if the board had questions at this time. Donna, is that appropriate?
President Irwin and members of the board, we have presented you tonight in your board packet with 3 items that need approval this evening. The first is the project resolution, which is required when the school plans to spend more than $1 million. It contains the estimated hard and soft project costs and the cost of bond issuance. It also contains the estimated tax impact. We ask for your approval on this resolution.
Mr. Burke made a motion for approval. Mr. White seconded that. Dr. Bowler, can I get a roll call on Exhibit A?
Mr. Lockhart, Mrs. Lauer, Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks, Mr. Irwin.
Aye.
The second document is the preliminary bond resolution containing the project cost, maximum interest rate, and other financial terms such as the first interest payment date and maturity dates of the bonds. We ask for your approval on this resolution.
So moved. Mr. Burke made a motion to approve. Mrs. White seconded that. Dr. Bowler, can I get a roll call on Exhibit B?
Mr. Lockhart,
Aye.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin.
Aye.
And finally, you have before you a reimbursement resolution. This resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to closing on the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself. We ask for your approval.
So moved. Mr. Burks made a motion to approve. Mrs. Wise seconded that. Dr. Bowler, can I get a roll call on Exhibit C, please?
Mr. Lockhart? Mrs. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers? Aye. Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Burks?
Aye.
Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
We appreciate your patience as we work through this borrowing process. Based on your approval of this evening's resolution, we will move forward with publishing the required legal notices in the Tribune Star, which include the notice of determination, the notice of intent to sell bonds, and the notice of hearing on an additional appropriation. We will request the final approvals in this process at the next scheduled board meeting, anticipating an August 20th bond sale and a September 15th closing date. We thank you again for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing for the GO bond and at the same time open our regularly scheduled board meeting. Dr. Powers made the motion to approve. Mr. Burke seconded that. I'm going to roll call please, Dr. Bowler.
Mr. Lockhart?
Aye.
Ms. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers? Aye. Ms. Scott? Aye. Mrs. Wise? Mr. Burks?
Aye.
Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
I would just, I think Jason is still hanging on the line. I think, Jason, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Donna, thank you for your presentation. But I want to let Jason know that he can.
Didn't see you back there, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
As we move on to our regularly scheduled board meeting, I felt it prudent to address an issue before we get started. We will not be taking action on sex education tonight. There is no proposal before us. The last 3 meetings that we've had since our last board meeting, information gathering for our committee, which is Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, and myself. We've announced a meeting on Wednesday. Because this is a board level committee, they all have to be public. So we posted that. There's not going to be public comment on Wednesday. This is for us to organize our thoughts because we have not gotten to meet together since we've had those 3 board work sessions that were information gathering. So we will be meeting on Wednesday to gather our thoughts as the 3 of us, as well as Dr. Hayward. No action will be taken on sex education this evening. I would also like to make note that in the agenda posted online, the second call for citizen comments was inadvertently left off. It has been corrected on our end, but if you have a copy of the online agenda, there was no second call for citizen comments, and we will insert that at the appropriate time. Our vision is working together with our community. We inspire our students to discover their talents and rise to their greatest potential. Our mission is building on the strengths of our diverse community. We create an engaging, comprehensive educational environment that supports the growth of lifelong learners. Our values are: we are committed to asking and answering what is in the best interest of each student. Leading by example, we are committed to personal accountability and work ethics, honesty and respect. We are committed to a safe, secure, and welcoming environment. We are committed to practices of inclusive excellence that value differences. We are committed to respecting the voice of all district stakeholders through collaborative engagement. And we are committed to developing students who improve the quality of life through Wabash Valley. At this time, we will move on to the first call for citizen comments. And these comments are on agenda items only. Please state your name and which agenda item you are going to be addressing. 5-minute time.
Thank you, President Irwin, Superintendent Hayward, members of the board. My name is Lynn and I'm talking about the Reentry and Mitigation. I had the time this morning to read the 26-page document. I personally don't see any issues with the plan. I think it's a scope plan to be. The thing that I do have a concern about is the fact that parents may not have had the time this morning when the folks were taking them to be able to read the document and to be able to come in tonight to make comments. If this plan had been released on Friday, I would not have any issues at all. But in the future, I would like to see things like this have a little bit of time for parents to understand what the corporation is trying to do. Thank you very much.
appreciate any comments if you give us time to tag the post.
My name is Brenda McFarland, and I just wanted to ask a couple of questions with regard to the return to school plan. I have noted that the first round of Chromebooks will arrive August the 7th, which doesn't really leave much time for getting them checked out, checked in and checked out to students. So I'm just thinking about that as I was, of course, reading the plan that was just presented today. And, and I also recognize then from the comments earlier that Lenovo computers are on an 8-week back order. So that makes it on September the 8th before they arrive. So I'm just making these statements just for kind of background information as we move forward in discussion tonight. I think that I have as someone who was an educator in Vigo County for 37 years, I have a few questions that are probably on the teacher side. And that's not the part that normally gets aired at this point in time. But I guess I have questions about what the school corporation would be doing with regard to teachers who might have to be quarantined due to COVID-related situations, and whether or not that would be pulled from personal sick leave, or whether or not there's going to be a bank of days that's COVID-related, if indeed we, do follow this policy of returning to school with, with direct contact. And I also wondered if it has been considered recently, if the concept has been considered to go ahead and delay the start of school until we have maybe no more than 0 to 5 new cases being presented, in the county over a 2-week period of time. I say all this with regard to the fact that I know that you all have poured over everything for hours, and I appreciate that. It's just such a fluid situation, and I know that Washington Township and Indianapolis just this morning, their school board voted in a 3-2 vote to go to a virtual, to go to the virtual school situation there. And so that just speaks to the fluidity of it. And so I just wanted to, I guess, make the statement that I feel that that the community has to stay flexible as it considers all the new data and the new number of cases, and so that they can understand that just because you say you have one plan today doesn't mean it will get to be that plan that gets executed either throughout the school year or even gets executed, period. So I just have thrown out these ideas with her, that you might have that thoughtful consideration meeting, and also too that you might see that it might be beneficial to, to delay and collaborate even some more. So thank you again for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Southwood, and I'm disappointed in the board that the public has only one opportunity to make comments or suggestions. That's at the meeting, and you get to dictate the parameters and what's allowed.
Which agenda item are you speaking on, Mr. Southwood?
But,
Which agenda item are you speaking on?
well, I want to offer that your section.
That's not on the agenda. That would come second call. Because we have a process in place, Mr. Southwood. And if you want to talk about that, that's perfect. That's on your second call. This is first call, which is the item. That's for the public to comment on things they're about to vote on. Then you go through the voting procedure, and then we talk about. So if there's something you'd like to speak about, then involve the vote warning, or what they speak about, being allowed, public comment. If you decide what the public gets to say, you do have a chance to say that during second call. At the end of the meeting, there will be a second call over that time. Sorry for any misunderstanding. I think that's, oh,
Questions and comments. One, I brought a conflict in question. And I understand you play around with the matter of Vigo. Academy online. Or do you go the online academy? Go backwards in learning based on where she's in this past school. And also while reading it, it said teachers may disinfect classes. Would that be an option around? We got a doctor's office where the teacher may disinfect patients. Versus coming in contact with where they're prior to. Is there a reason it was not suggested why kids can't stay on the classroom? How many tests positive before we look at stepping back from the reentry plan? It is 65% of the parents responded to the survey and 58.3% voted for the hybrid schedule. Why was that not considered? How will the mask be enforced? And we can't even enforce it. In which schools have enough room architecturally and low enough enrollment to socially distance in class? And why would masks not be required at all? And I guess part of the busing went with the hybrid, how will busing be handled if the hybrid has been considered, the cost associated with that? Is there cheaper alternatives to it? You know, I know a lot of parents are maybe supposed to go back to care and it's great to go back to work. Then how do you, one of the options on there was the kids get dropped off and picked up at the schedule. And it also said the bus windows down. That includes security to make them that we're going to travel. Those are my questions and concerns about this. Thank you.
Seems no more. Go ahead.
And there was not face masks in school. I don't know if anybody has looked at the American Disabilities Act, but you cannot force anybody to wear it. You need to look at OSHA, you need to look at the American Disability Act, you need to look at the CDC. I mean, I have Dr. Fauci recorded saying face masks will not be helpful. And if we're using him as an expert, I have them on tape. That's my comment for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Erwin and members of the board. Good evening. My name is Stacy Killian, and I'm a parent and 2 students in the Vigo County School Corporation. My oldest is a student at Terre North. My youngest is a student at Cooperative. First, I want to acknowledge the time, work, and effort that went into this BCRC reopening plan. I can only imagine the overwhelming task everyone has had to arguably give the most important plan the school corporation may ever see. And I thank you for that. One of my sons suffers from asthma and other respiratory conditions, so I'm very pleased to see a section addressing underlying health conditions of students. As a parent, my children are my heart and my motivation for being here. I'm also someone with an underlying health condition, and it has taken me a lot to be here. I've not been in a public setting since March 15th. Their health and safety are my highest concern, and they're not a percentage. They are not a number. They are my kids. I need our plan to always be mindful of the health of our students, our teachers, and our staff that are tasked to oversee my son's safety. I'm not aware of any parental or student involvement outside of the survey for the plan of reopening. I've also consulted with several teachers that stressed they were not consulted either. I'm asking 2 things this evening. Please table this vote to give parents and caregivers more time to read the 26-page document and to wrap their heads around it and to give feedback. And 2, please consider inviting parents, teachers, and even students to be a part of this process. Thank you. Hi, Carol. I just have 2 quick questions. These may have been in the plan, but I don't recall anything specific. What is the plan for the part? Thank you.
Seeing no others, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Burks made a motion to approve. Wise seconded that. Dr. Gold, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Lockhart, Mrs. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks, Mr. Irwin.
Aye. Next, we'll move on to donations. Dr.
Members of the board, as you know, we continue to receive donations for the backpack program. Are beginning to flow, but we are still receiving, and we are thankful to our community for making this donation. I'm requesting approval to accept the various donations to the backpack fund that we will keep some of.
Mr. Lockhart made a motion to approve the donations. Mr. Wise seconded that.
Mr. Lockhart, Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks, Mr. Irwin.
Aye. Now we would like to invite Mr. Cox to the podium for our personnel report and professional leave request.
Paperwork was Maryland administration report and
Wise made approved. Dr. Powers seconded that. Mr. Gold, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Lockhart, Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks, Mr. Irwin.
Aye. Onward here. Okay, all right. Hayward, school year meeting.
The food service department is requesting a price increase for requirements. Hungry Free Kids Act of 2010, Child Nutrition, and WIC reauthorization section 5, agreeing school meal pricing, who was requested from the board of co-trustees for an increase in payments for both the elementary and secondary schools. This will make lunches at the elementary school $2.90 and the secondary school $2.05.
Did something similar last year, as part of the planning presented to us. Now, entertain a motion for the school year one. Second.
Second, I would suggest that we not have a first and second motion fails, but we could be jeopardizing federal funds for our students, which I believe we received $8 million from.
I will second that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Powers made a motion to approve. Mrs. Powers seconded that. Dr. Gore, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Lockhart, Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers, Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise, Mr. Burks, Mr. Irwin.
Aye.
Thank you, board. I know it's not an easy thing to do to raise lunch prices, but as Hank was mentioning, this is a plan that was adopted, I think, 2 years ago.
We're going to move on to grants.
Superintendent Hayward, President Irwin, Board of School Trustees. I have 2 grants this evening. One is a sub-grant agreement with Indiana State University from the Area Health Education Center grant for the amount of $1,725 that we had to modify on May 15, 2020. It is for the Health Occupation Students of America. Originally, it was to support them going to the state conference. This is a partnership we've had with Indiana State and AHEC for many years to support our kids from North, South, and West going to compete. And COVID obviously messed that up. So we're seeking permission to approve the modified grant to it's the modifications based on membership for HOSA, and they got to do some online activities. So money went to West Vigo, North Vigo, and South Vigo's HOSA programs. The other grant is for through the Governor's Workforce Cabinet, and it's for a summer bridge program. And basically, we are taking our graduating seniors that did not get to finish their certifications. And for example, we have 4 Vigo County students that didn't get to finish their CNA certification, 12 Clay County students that didn't get to finish certified nursing certification. We have 5 machining students that left projects on machines that are graduating seniors that won't get their certification if we don't bring them back this month. And, you know, that impacts dual credit, impacts career opportunities and things. So we applied for what's called a bridge grant, that some teachers to bring those back in and have an opportunity to come back next year, finish their certification, have an opportunity to earn their credentials. So that's what the other grant is for. So both those, we're glad to answer any questions.
From the Indiana Arts. They are asking for $4,730. This group in the past, our students have a music association, and this year, since they're not able to do that, they would like for us to sponsor them and have a virtual music festival. And they've written, Mrs. Muchler has written a very, very nice description to share what their plans are.
And let Dr. Muller get back to receive.
You have to admit, she does a better job than the previous person.
No. Mr. Lockhart?
Mr. Burks made a motion to approve. Ms. Scott seconded that, and then roll call please.
Okay, Mr. Lockhart? Mrs. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers? Aye. Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise? Mr. Burks?
Aye.
Mr. Irwin?
Dr. McKee, thank you for this time and your team by helping you.
Good evening, Superintendent Hayward, President Irwin, members of the School Board of Trustees. 4 months ago today, on March 13th, schools in Indiana closed. Every school corporation across the country is grappling with the creation of a comprehensive plan that will protect human life while at the same time will provide a quality education for our youth. Today, I bring with me a draft of our plan to reopen our schools in the midst of this pandemic. We realize the enormous task ahead of us and take our charge and responsibility very seriously as we hold the health of our school community in our hands. I come to you tonight as the Director of Student Services, but like many of us that have worked on this plan, we are parents of school-age children. My youngest son will start high school this year. The plan before you tonight was created in a collaborative effort with all of our employee groups, including the BCTA leadership team, input from our community via community survey, guidance from the Indiana Department of Education, the state of Indiana, Indiana Department of Health, local medical professionals, and from our local health department. We have sought to be inclusive in our decision-making and will continue to listen to our greater community. Because we are in the midst of a pandemic, it is important to note that our guidance in this document is likely to change. I want to reiterate that our community understands that this is a fluid process and our guidance or community spread changes will be made to the plan. We are dedicated to reviewing the plan on a daily basis if necessary to make changes and to stay on the right path. We will continue to seek input from parents, teachers, and community members, and with the understanding that this is a beginning and this is probably not where we will end up. The Vigo County School Corporation is home to 13,790 students, our most precious gift. And we want to be sure that we are in a position of protecting our children. We are one of Vigo County's largest employees. We have over 2,000 teachers, bus drivers, food service staff, secretaries, and custodians. We must protect their health. The way in which we open our doors to the 14,000 students and 2,000 employees, and when you're thinking about a communicable disease, their loved ones, this has a profound impact on public health. Opening our doors is important. School provides basic services to all children, but especially students living in poverty. We have to reduce our risk as much as we can so school can open during this pandemic. In February, the School Board of Trustees approved a new strategic plan. Our school reentry plan aligns with the guiding values within the strategic plan. More specifically, the value, what is in the best interest of each student, was a guiding principle for us. We are concerned about the social emotional well-being of our students. 41% of our parents and caregivers indicated in the survey that they are too. We believe that returning to our school buildings is the best way to address social emotional learning. It is in the best interest of each student to protect our over 2,000 staff members. Our mitigation strategies are designed to protect our staff as much as our children. Finally, these mitigation strategies are in place to provide a safe atmosphere for all of our students. Here we will main mitigation strategies that we'll employ within this plan. Here are the main mitigation strategies. Number one, social distancing. Whenever possible, students and staff should stay at least 6 feet apart. The possibilities for social distancing will depend on the architecture of the school and space. Schools will identify creative uses of indoor and outdoor spaces. Masking. Masking is a scientifically proven way to mitigate the transmission of coronavirus. It will prevent students from required quarantine when a case is identified in a school. All students and staff will be required to carry a mask. A mask will be worn when social distancing is not possible. It's very detailed in our plan. At least 2 cloth masks will be provided to students and staff, though one can be brought from home, subject to approval. Sanitation. We have a comprehensive sanitation plan, and all custodians have been trained to provide the safest environment for our school community throughout the year. Personal hygiene. Students will be trained in proper hand washing and hand sanitizer will be available in every classroom. We have purchased over 1,000 pump foam hand sanitizers for our schools. Time will be built into the day for hand washing, including the start of the day, before eating, after using the restroom, and after using shared equipment. We also are stockpiling disinfecting wipes to clean the classrooms and our buses after use. Contact tracing. We will collaborate with the Vigo County Health Department to trace close contact with confirmed cases of COVID-19. Individuals with close contact are likely to be excluded from school. Our masking, social distancing, and hygiene policies exist to help prevent such exclusion. The case we had at Terre Haute South with the football team is a good example, because we have precautions in place, because we were cohorting students in pods, because we mitigated risk. The entire football team is not quarantined. At this point, I would like to invite Dr. Brucken, the Chief Medical Officer from the Vigo County Health Department, to comment on our mitigation policy, specifically masking.
Thank you, thanks for having me. I'm Daniel with Tom and we're trying to put together this policy for input. My job is we understand from the public health perspective the difficult task at hand to try to get things back safely. Challenges that are going to be there. We wish we had a plan that we could copy from some international or schools. But as Tom said, commented this situation, everything has changed. Everything continues to change and will change. The issue with masking in particular, brief rundown of the virus, respiratory virus, identifying respiratory droplets, low aerosolization, phone lines on other services. That's what we've been able to identify and the mainstays that have stuck with us throughout this entire journey. We can find this virus is still 6 months old. It may exist before. By looking at the examples from the world, we know that social distancing
And masking is the way to mitigate this. But Asian countries, masking takes social responsibility, it's done without fail. They do a great job of mitigating the spread of the virus. We, unfortunately, as a country, get a failing grade as far as our own mitigation, wearing masks and social distancing. That's evident. But about the country. If we bring kids back into school, we need to certainly feel it's a vital part to keep kids mask as much as possible. If we can keep kids socially distanced outdoors, fantastic. But masking is incredibly important. As someone wears a mask, just like the very mask that I have on now, it is designed to catch the matter and detect my body. My mask protects you. Your mask protects you. So it takes two parts. So my mask is not meant to protect me from picking up the virus. To protect me from broadcasting viral particles. We watch at the Department of the Vigo County Health Department, we do our contact tracing. The state has some oversight on that as well, but we do every single case that has come to us. We know how to do this. Lynn and Tom, other folks have been around. Guide us with this principle. The comments about if masks are in place, it helps with the contact tracing. If I am COVID positive and I have a mask on, I'm sitting close enough to me. Even if I'm positive, we are both at low risk of transmission. I'm a low risk of transmission to him because I have a mask on. Low risk because he has a mask on. If neither of us are masked, we go for quarantine. We go on quarantine. That's the importance of the mask. Same thing happened with our pods that were designed to us. Try to minimize the risk of that. That same principle carries through. We know, we've all talked, all parents, logistically going to be challenging, certainly comments from public. We have to strive for that compliance. If we can keep ourselves masked, keep ourselves distant, and keep ourselves clean, we can keep our kids safe from one another. The ultimate goal, we know from the science of it, the kids do very, very well, even with the illness across the board, for the most part. There are exceptions. Kids out there, medical conditions. Those kids live somewhere. They go home. Parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts, siblings, we have to keep them from bringing home the virus. Do that by preventing them. So, 1,000% pro-mask, without a doubt. Society, really wish our state was all mask all the time. I wish the country was it would help. Every single country, without fail, without exception. That is a huge part of this. Social distancing, that's not going anywhere. Obviously, sanitation is not going anywhere, and the contact rate. Appearance of this is going to be important. The enforcement of it, tells you guys, down. But everything in this universe can be done safely. But it has been a very collaborative effort from public health, from health professionals, nutrition, looked obviously to the state, the federal government, guidance from the health organization, international court, trying to do the absolute best we can. I thought that we're going into this mitigation reentry plan. Invited us here tonight, myself and Dr. courses, medical questions that we talked about. I certainly stick around as long as I can as well to thank you for having me.
And at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Holder, the medical director for Union Medical.
Hello, thank you very much for having us here.
Okay. I won't touch it. I am really excited and support 100% all the work that went into developing this plan. When we started, 4 months ago, this was, like Dr. Buckley said, this was a new virus that we were having to deal with. So all that we're learning, all that we have learned to this point was filtered down into this plan. We know that if we follow some of these basic principles, that we can actually help prevent unnecessary or unneeded infections, quarantines, and the staff, the 2,000 employees that go to work there every day. So coming from the, I'm a pediatrician in this community for 18 years. 15 years of those, my children have attended this schools within this corporation. So this is important to me as well. As a pediatrician, myself and all other fellow pediatricians across the country are very, very pro bringing children back into school to get an education. It's very vital that they receive the services that they need, not just the education, but all the other aspects that schools do to nurture young, growing minds. So 100% supported. I think there's going to be differing opinions about how our corporation or another school does it. We'll work that out. But I think that what we don't disagree about is that our children deserve an education. They deserve to get the highest level of education that they can. I think we all agree we'd like the virus to go back, crawl in the hole it came out of, but that's not going to happen. But at least not soon. And in the end, we want to make sure that our community is protected against rising cases, and so it's a responsible plan to help mitigate that. So, like Dr. Bruckner said, we'll be here to answer any questions that the public or the board has, but I appreciate and applaud the efforts that have gone into this plan. I know it was difficult to, like I said, decipher all that and make decisions that are appropriate for our. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last mitigation strategy is protecting our most vulnerable people. We will assist students and staff with pre-existing conditions. Our nursing staff will work with the medical community to develop strategies for high-risk students. We did put out a survey, a community survey. We had 8,939 responses. That's greater than 65% of our school community. So with masking, that was one of the questions that we had. 62% said that they would be comfortable with universal masking. 53% comfortable with staff-only masking. 44% comfortable with no masking. In learning, 58% comfortable with hybrid in-person remote learning. 49% comfortable with remote learning only. 3,626 parents concerned with their child's social and emotional well-being. We have to take all those things in consideration when we make this plan. Again, the plan is evolving. We will continue to reach out to our stakeholders to change our plan as conditions change. With that said, I also want to talk about a symptom-based strategy. We will have a generally symptom-based system for exclusion of students and staff. Due to the potential for exposure after a test, we will not require students or staff to be tested to exclude them from school, nor will we require that an individual take a test or a series of COVID-19 tests to return. This is guidance that we've received from the medical community and the health department, Department of Health. We will also be suspending part of a policy that is the attendance policy, policy JEP. We will be suspending certain attendance letters. We'll also be We will continue to have schools call regarding education neglect. High school students will not lose their credit as mentioned in the policy, and will have a moratorium on all attendance incentives. Talk about continuous learning here. Vigo Virtual Success Academy, K-12 students and families will have the option to officially enroll in the Vigo Virtual Success Academy. Students with documented health concerns or those who fear returning to school due to COVID-19 may choose full-time online education. Parents have the flexibility to return their children to traditional school after consultation with the principal of BVSA. The BVSA principal will assess the device needs of each student during the enrollment interview, and when possible, the Vigo County School Corporation will equip that student with that device. We have started this process already. Many of you have seen our correspondence go out with families, and we're trying to gauge the number of people that are in education. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. Doler, our Deputy Superintendent, to present our continuous learning plan.
So within our continuous learning plan, our parents and students will have two options. As Dr. Valentin mentioned, we will have a Virtual Success Academy in which families have the option to officially enroll in full-time online education. We have two programs within that online education, the Adventum and the Calvert digital curriculum. Those will be delivered by state certified educators as part of the Ed Options Academy. It will do a step-by-step learning for students who want to remain at home. For all of our other students, we have a strong blended learning approach that will include both print and digital learning. Beginning this fall, we are very fortunate that our students in grades 3 through 12 will have Chromebooks. Thank you to our board tonight for supporting that. I'm very excited that those Chromebooks will be available this fall. Our teachers have been working very diligently this summer to prepare for this online learning. We don't know what August will look like, and so our teachers are preparing for many different scenarios, but we do know that they will need to deliver instruction remotely. So we are working through a learning management system this summer and preparing our classrooms online. Secondly, for our K-2 students, we are looking at a blended learning approach as well. We're looking at providing our students with supplemental print materials at home. They will be given a large packet of interactive materials in reading as well as everyday math, as well as some physical education and health and wellness activities to keep at home so that it will be there if we need to have extended school closures and students need to have learning materials at home. Also, we're looking at digital learning in K-2 with our digital platforms. Our students have email and they will be able to log in for those that have access to connectivity. So right now, our summer is very, very busy with our teachers working in professional development for Canvas as well as Google Meet, Gmail, the ConnectEd platform, and Skyward, looking at what options that they need to improve in their learning so that we can deliver collaborative and communicative different kinds of systems when school starts. So also have in place a teacher leader grant in the fall. This will allow much professional development when school starts in all of our buildings. So we know we have much to learn and we're eager to continue to learn so we can deliver the very best digital learning, quality digital learning that our students deserve. So we want to be ready for anything that comes our way and be prepared with our Chromebooks, our Canvas, our Google Meet, and ready to go.
It's important to note that this is our plan on July 13th, 2020. We will need to be flexible with this plan. And part of that flexibility is listening to the state, our employee groups, our healthcare leaders, and our community as we review what is best related to COVID-19. We will review this plan at least weekly to see what parts of the plan need to shift. We are meeting weekly with all employee groups to discuss how this plan will evolve and their concerns about the plan, including employment-related questions. Our principals, teachers, staff, and administrators will be challenged this year, but they are creative, flexible, and caring professionals who will be up to this challenge. At this time, I would like to call to the podium Neil Marquez and John Wright. They are with Liberty Mutual, and who is our insurance carrier.
Thank you, Tom. Dr. Hayward. And yes, I'd like to make clarification. Really, there's not the carrier, right, the Vigo County School. In reflection of the plan that the school corporation has designed, I'd like to offer a comment because as we've been discussing and sharing with the leadership, they are able to view plans from other school forward that your group will review. Yours is by far the most expensive that we have viewed to date, and as such, you're to be commended. The plan that is presented to the community and to was developed on a framework provided by Liberty Mutual a couple of months ago. Within that plan, they were focused on all the internal elements that are big protected. So to that degree, you are to be commended. With the medical professionals here this evening that have commented on the essential elements that you have made cornerstones of the program, also, and there will be a challenge with children, but that's why we have to be very appreciative that we do in the Bible Council. I would, John Wright, who was with me, is going to share with you a letter from Liberty Mutual that we were asked to provide and to comment on the viability and program development. So with that said, I'd like to introduce John.
Thank you, Neil. Dr. Hayward, President Irwin, members of the board. Like Neil stated, we shared this plan with Liberty Mutual, the general liability property provider for the school corporation, with the intent of getting a written approval from them. And unfortunately, they would not take a stance on plans in their exact words. Vigo County School Corporation plan has no elements that Liberty Mutual can identify as sufficient. However, due to the unique circumstances which continue to arise with COVID-19, Liberty Mutual is not formally approving reentry plans for any schools in Indiana or around the country. It also goes on to Liberty Mutual issued our reopening guidance document, which I mentioned. They are also hosting a reopening with other school corporations throughout the state, which Vigo County School Corporation has been invited. I think it's planning on attending.
We cannot approve reopening plans because we are not licensed educators, attorneys, or CDC health department professionals, thus we can assist with guidance on. Goes on to say, we encourage schools to follow federal, state, and local guidance with respect to their operations concerning the coronavirus. With respect to questions about coverage, while we do not believe that there is a conclusion for claims arising from the school's alleged violation of a recommendation, coverage as with any claim is contingent on the terms of the policy and the allegations supporting the claim. Thus, we are unable to provide any blanket assurance of coverage since coverage is ultimately dependent on the facts of a given claim. It also states we do not intend to have these like a policy for school operation. I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
For this time, board, in front of you is a resolution. We're asking approval on tonight. What I would ask is Dr. Baltevich to read that resolution. And after we're in the first, and the second, then we open it up to questions.
Whereas the United States of America and the state of Indiana have faced a pandemic caused by the coronavirus and COVID-19. Whereas on March 19, 2020, by Executive Order 20-19, Governor Holcomb closed all schools until May 1st, 2020, and by Executive Order 20-16, on April 2nd, 2020, closed schools until June 30th, 2020. Whereas federal, state, and local officials and agencies have encouraged school corporations to return to in-person education for the coming 2021 school year, while recognizing the discretion of local school boards to make final decisions. Whereas the Vigo County School Corporation, Vigo County Schools, have developed the school reentry and COVID-19 mitigation plan, a plan that was reviewed and supported by the Vigo County Health Department and constructed in close consultation with the Vigo County Health Department with reliance on guidance from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and the Indiana Department of Education and the Vigo County Health Department for reopening Vigo County schools and providing in-person instruction, reopening of facilities, and reinstitution of programs. Whereas Vigo County Schools remain committed to providing a free, appropriate public education to its students in service to our community. Whereas the safety of students and their families and employees of Vigo County Schools remains a central concern to the school corporation. And whereas the Vigo County Schools continues to closely monitor the spread of COVID-19 in Indiana with updates from international, federal, state, and local governmental agencies. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the School Board of Trustees of the Vigo County School Corporation as follows. The Board of School Trustees adopts the school reentry and COVID-19 mitigation plan, which is attached hereto and incorporated by reference herein. The plan was prepared with input from the board from a broad spectrum of stakeholders and is adopted by balancing the need for education in an appropriate educational environment with the public health challenges in the midst of this pandemic. The plan, a living, breathing document, that can be amended, attempts to achieve a proper balance of the important public health and educational policies within the limitations of the Vigo County Schools' current budgeted resources. The Vigo County Schools Administration is delegated the full power and authority by this Board of School Trustees to implement and carry out the provisions of the following of the foregoing and any all school policies and regulations or other Vigo County School documents inconsistent with the foregoing, which would otherwise prevent hinder or delay necessary action in carrying out or implementing the same in order to cope with the COVID-19 emergency, and hereby waived and suspended as allowed by law. In exercising the above authority, the superintendent or his designee will keep members of the school board of trustees reasonably informed of actions taken pursuant to the foregoing authority.
Thank you, Dr. Olivetti. In regard to class sentence, for a board meeting last week of July, beginning July 27th, and sometime to review where currently are with the plan and data that is before us. But at this time, President,
I have a motion to adopt. Mr. Lockhart made a motion to approve, and Dr. Powers seconded that. We'll now have discussion and question.
Dr. Hayward.
Okay, I have a question. I question the word reasonably inform the board. And I question not hearing the mention of the extreme flexibility of our plans just due to issues outside our control.
so to speak to reasonably, there may be an action that the administration might take immediately to where we would not have the ability to inform the board of an emergency situation that might occur. We can inform you of that as we have historically done, not just about this process, but I do believe, Jackie, to your point, that it's a very, very fluid situation. I think if you think about where Washington Township was this time last week, they were in a meeting much like this, plan that changed this morning. And so we will continue to watch data, trends, talk to our healthcare professionals, and continue to do what's in the best interest of our students and our staff.
Right, but wait, got a little background noise here. Those were happy dreams, by the way. I was just gonna say that the reasonable, I'm not talking about, it doesn't say reasonably timing of informing the board. Just by reasonably informing the board suggests not timing, but choice to not inform. So I don't know if you put reasonably timing or anyway, that's my question. I'll rest my case.
Mr. Burks, I know you had a question. Sorry you got interrupted.
That's okay. I think,
Closer to your microphone, please.
Can you get closer to your microphone, Mr. Burks?
I would say that in answering the question, Ms. Bauer, Dr.
Thank you. Ms. Lauer, would it be acceptable to remove the word reasonably? It just says Board of School Trustees informed of action taken.
Ms. Lauer,
Thank you.
We'll make that modification.
Yes.
Question, how will the revisions be published?
Much the same way, we modified theirs, or track what the original document has stated, and then we will add amendments to the plan, specify the dates under those.
Dr. Balatavich, I know we had this question in executive session and it was asked earlier tonight. Could you touch on the family first and the 80 hours we talked about for Or, sorry, Mr. Cox, not you. My apologies.
There was a question this evening about the family first act of the adopted. That actually applies to part-time. That would come in contact with step-home supervisor, experience any of those types of things. They would have a 8 hours. Amongst that, after that, moved out would be sick leave and personal leave.
So for clarification, the first 80 hours of COVID-related time that is not taken out of their personal leave.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I would also add to that, I believe there are 5 conditions that are outlined by the federal government in which an employee can to apply for these days. So not just be for a sickness of a staff member, if a child is sick, or somebody care for, there are 5 conditions.
So those 80 hours equate to 10 schools.
Question, in posting the FAQ, that is a question we can have with them.
Yeah, we'll be starting an FAQ as soon as this meeting is over and start posting that as quickly as we possibly can. Again, some of the comments were, how will you keep up with this? And we will continue to ask people for their opinions out there and get the knowledge that we have and try to do the best.
I know it's been said many times, but this is a very fluid plan. I think Dr. Hayward said it best for Washington Township, but the time last week, I'm not saying that it will or will not happen here, but things were always subject to change. So, if you have input, reach out and do what is best for you.
I just want to comment too. I think all of us were very good about the plan in terms that Dr. Hayward and his team worked very hard on bringing many people in, including employee groups, the parent survey, health professionals, so forth, and probably I think we have probably one of the better plans in the state on now. And at this point, it probably will change. I think it will change. On that. But I think also they have done a lot of planning on ideas like why there is closure, whatever they would say, close. We would need that best to period of time. They have already talked about that, planning for that. Chromebooks and so forth, places like that as well. But a lot else to do. So they've not even told us everything about that tonight. All the plans that we have, parts of or developed all that. So to the public, I hope you're getting confident that this is what will not plan, but also the realization that and the willingness for that information forward and those questions as they can, as we can. Also, fighting the question forward also allows staff to think about those and situations where that we can't include every cost.
That would be very accurate. Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you. Thanks to our staff, great job. Thanks for all the help.
I have a question. So, because I worked on this, did I abstain from voting? Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, Dr. Moore, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Lockhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Ms. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Burks?
Aye.
Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward. Administration. We'll now move on to the enrollment update, Dr. Hayward.
We do not have an enrollment update for this particular board meeting. Dumping data between two sources right now, and so we will have that ready for you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward. We'll now move on to the second call for citizen comments. This can be on anything school related, except personnel. We ask you to state your name. You are allowed 5 minutes. I will give them a second warning. And we ask you to please give time in between each speaker so that we may clean the podium.
I'm going to remove my mask just for the purpose. I'm hearing that folks are having difficulty here. Good evening, Superintendent Hayward, President Irwin, and board members. My name is Joey Buckaloo. I'm a special education teacher, a proud Lost Creek Lion, and recently have become president of the Vigo County Teachers Association. For over a month now, we have worked in partnership with the downtown administration to form some guidance and some plans. Again, this is a fluid plan, and plans will change. We see that, we know that. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have another school board meeting to address concerns. As the plan was rolled out to our teachers, we obviously have concerns. I'd like to just highlight a few of those and recognizing the difference between what will occur in elementary school, middle school, and high school, what will happen in our larger schools versus our smaller schools. My theme today, as we've had teachers reach out, union members reach out to us, was that we're Team Vigo also equals Team Safe. And so that we will bring these concerns to you, and we will continue bringing them via phone call, email, text message, whatever we need to do to get those concerns out. Thank you, Mr. Cox, for informing us about the COVID days. I think there still are a lot of confusion out there. The local email and the release of the plan, I gave teachers the opportunity to think over the weekend, and now parents will have opportunity to look and think over the weekend or as the week goes on as to what we can do to get back into our classroom. I'm also speaking to you as a teacher who is at high risk. My immune system was compromised 4 years ago due to chemotherapy. I teach a very specific population of special education students, and I'm here today to tell you that yes, I am 4'0", but in the classroom I do feel 6 feet tall. But I am concerned and I am scared. Members, I hope you're listening. I am concerned, I am scared, but we will together get through this. We will together find a way to answer our questions and to make this work via however that's going to look with our either virtual schools or in person. Continue, please, members, to email me, call me, work through your building reps, or come directly through me, Mr. Cox, Dr. Hayward, Dr. B, Dr. Fenton, and Dr. Mason have all been open and honest and willing to sit down and discuss and to continue moving forward. Central office discussion meetings are happening weekly, sometimes even more than once a week if we're doing a phone conversation. The meetings with all employee groups are continuing to happen weekly. We know this is evolving and changing. We could very well next week be looking at a totally different plan. I appreciate everyone reaching out and continue to do that. The only way a teacher's voice can be heard is by us standing up and asking those questions. Please continue to ask those questions to the building rep or contact me personally, and we'll work together to seek those answers. On another note, I'd like to ask tonight for the board to consider that the Wear Red for Ed movement is well beyond now about teacher pay. It is about our state recognizing the need to supply and support our public schools to create safe places of learning. While state officials did not cut funding, we must ask the question, will the current funding still be enough for those much needed essential supplies? That is why we cannot and we must not stop moving forward, and we must demand our local officials that take part in such critical discussions in Indianapolis to listen to teachers. Tonight I'm asking you to please consider again to continue the Wear Red for Ed campaign movement in the name of funding our public schools for safety for our teachers and our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear Vigo County School Board and Superintendent Hayward, I am here tonight on behalf of my fellow citizens, former students, and concerned parents. In the last 24 hours, a group of advocates circulated the letter I'm about to read. It was signed by 169 people when we cut it off at 4 p.m. today. You each received an email with the full text I'm about to read and the full list of signers. To Superintendent Hayward and the Board of School Trustees, we are here tonight because over the last 2 weeks, your Sexual Education Committee staged 3 public meetings that left us confused, exhausted, and disappointed with your leadership. The so-called work sessions gave us no sense of how the committee will do its work. Alongside Superintendent Hayward, the committee members sat mostly silent through and offered no explanation of how these sessions related to the charge they were given in February to seek an external review of the current CPR curriculum and establish parameters for sex education going forward. Instead, these sessions required a massive amount of work by us, your public, who were given 12 days notice in the middle of summer and over the July 4th holiday weekend to recruit speakers, compile research, and turn people out to indoor public gatherings during a pandemic, all while trying to guess what on earth the committee could possibly still need to hear from the public in order to move forward with its charge. This was and is inexcusable. We do not want to be here tonight talking about sex ed. We do not want to keep sending you emails, writing letters to the editor, and making public comment about sex ed. We do not want to keep worrying about whether our voices are being heard over the misinformed components of CPR. Their lies, fear-mongering, and straw men, i.e. comprehensive sex education, should have no role in the curriculum decisions of our school corporation, no matter how many emails they send to your inbox. We're dismayed that your poorly conceived public work sessions have burdened us with this labor yet again. Please end the distractions and stop making us do the work. Get the external review of the curriculum that you committed to in February. Convene the Sex Education Committee with the select group of experts that you identified in February. Provide our kids with sex education that is medically accurate, up-to-date, age-appropriate, and inclusive of LGBTQ students and students with disabilities. Sincerely, Claire Craigmile, Dominique Moorfield, Emma Crossan, and the 166 other people who signed this today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Carrie King. I am the Center Director of the Crisis Pregnancy Center. I'm also a former Creating Positive Relationships instructor. I instructed in the Vigo County Schools for 5 years, also Clay County Schools, Park County, and I just wanted to ask each of you if you would please personally read the Creating Positive Relationships curriculum.
You have heard from your community, but I encourage each of you personally to read the curriculum. A lot of accusations have been made, but you have access to the curriculum, so please read it. I would also ask that each board member review each of the work sessions. They are available. A lot of information is shared in all of those meetings, particularly your teachers. Your teachers came and presented. They are first-hand eyewitnesses to the program. They take great pride in their classrooms. They are very protective of their classrooms. So please listen to what they have said about the Creating Public Relations program. I will say personally, listening to some of the past students and the hurt and the shame that they felt, I left feeling very sad because that would never be our intention. We value every student. We do our best to include students. I will share one personal, in a classroom, we have the students take a name tag before we walk in, so we can build that relationship, college student by name. One particular student made a nameplate, kind of like what we have right now, and I was calling on the student, we were correct. At the end of the class, the teacher said, I don't know who you were talking to. I said, what do you mean? The teacher said, this student on Friday went by another name and dressed up. And I had no idea, but we have good communication. We do our very best to include. So I would just encourage you, please read the curriculum. Please watch those lessons. And I know on behalf of Creating Public Relationships, the curriculum, the CPC does not write the curriculum. They are open to that curriculum. So please, have the curriculum reviewed. It is medically accurate. So I do implore you also to make that decision. We've been fighting this battle, and it is exhausting. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Southwood. And while I was looking, I was coming in here and I was thinking that, maybe that having a whole audience, whether it is here or in the school district, that everybody got now, say, the budget of the they can have one person, all the whole prayer, that have all the voice on. We go to these meetings, only probably 20% of the people will get that speak. But in public of people, so it only seems to me educational, there's more of a chance of spreading the disease, say, the budget of leaders than there is public comment. And, you could say the flag in another side. Another suggestion, how many kids that live with their grandparents, how many kids live with someone has COPD or diabetic or, somebody with asthma at home. And in that sense, if the school district knew all the people, the kids that had some grandparents or somebody with medical condition, that kid might be able to wear a red wristband. They have to have their mask on all the time while they're at school in order to protect their vulnerable at home. And everybody saying you're supposed to be wearing a mask. You got somebody that has a medical condition at home that needs to be, that has ridiculous. Then I heard somebody out here say that during the physical education training that people won't have to wear a mask, Well, they have physical education as training or something like that, for people to get under mask. Just so they walk around the school grade, like that kids go through the part for what they so different, then maybe they would have to, if they're being inside of lazy. But the reason I came over here, was, you know, a little about sex education. And I was thinking that, you know, I don't care if it's time, it's 20 years. I don't care how you want to talk about the school, but, you know, I think that maybe if you allow the kids, you know, while they're in high school, if they don't want to be bothered by having kids talk to them, hey, you cannot go to a party with me, go out on a date. Maybe they just want to be able to learn, and they don't want to have, you know, one person have another person up with sexual convince them that they're just as right as them. You know? And then maybe the students could wear like a little red, you know, on the school, you know, like West Terre Haute, Terre Haute, South, on their shirt collar, you know. Then that way the kids could say, go by there and have these little red pins on their shirt. You can't ask them anything with any sexual content or to go out on a date because, you know, they're not interested in having a reaction like that, you know, at this moment in time. You know, and then maybe like a month before, you know, if you get a problem or then you know, take the pins off, something like that happen on a note that comes to the problem. And then if they said go to the problem, they put the feedback on, so they wouldn't have to be consequences by, you know, others today. So always think hang out with them for something like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Harpold. I'd like to speak just to 2 points that have been raised here tonight. First of all, I lead an organization, a group of people that have discovered through the last many years a term called poverty pockets. Poverty pockets are hidden within our school district. So we have a group of parents that make a little bit more money than others. You can hide a very poor community. And the organization that I lead has fed thousands of people. We do this each month, and we were participating in the school lunch programs during the quarantine, also for the east side of Terre Haute. We've discovered that there are a lot of children that don't have good parental guidance. Teachers have eyes. They have eyes. They are important, not just to teach, but to care. They are concerned. They see things that maybe other people do not see. And when our students are not at school, there may not be any eyes on them. There is another, well, there's a ripple effect when students are not in school. And it's not all measured by who has COVID and who does not. When students are not in school, other things can happen, and other things do happen. I have a lot of statistics, and I will not share them here with you now, but I can email them to you. Calls that are made, teachers that make calls, abusive situations. And so I want to just echo a little bit of what the doctors spoke about, the pediatrician, that promoted our efforts to get back into class. It is very vital that our teachers re-engage with the students. It's more than just COVID. There's a lot of other things that happen, not just malnutrition, but many other things that happen when teachers don't have their eyes on the students. And then lastly, I would like to say that parents do need to be informed. They need to be appraised, not only as we enter into a school district with an FAQ or the other things that are happening, but with the curriculum that could be presented. And I would submit that parents really do not know what comprehensive sexuality education is all about. But we have read it, and it is unsavory. I would just ask you, give time for parents to be appraised of what their students might be engaged in, and let those parents at least have some vested interest in what the school district would promote. There are financial issues. We began this session with bonds. There's been other issues that have been raised, teachers' pay and in-class needs. I would submit to you, new curriculum is going to cost new money. I do not believe our school district can afford the weight and that ripple effect of the money that will be needed for a brand new sex education program, the continued education for our parents. I want to thank you for all of your work. These are a lot of topics, but I would say regarding both the quarantine and COVID, the virus, and sex education in our public schools, these are and will remain very hot topics. And so we hope that you will review all of the data that's been presented, especially from the groups that have been represented. And I rise in support of CPR. We believe that it is the very best program that encompasses all of our students. The great majority of our students are helped and not hindered. Thank you very much.
During again, there are 2 points that I want to talk about. I know that we talked about there is going to be face masks. I want to know that all of you consider face shield versus face masks, where they're clear and people can see each other's faces, because there is a psychological effect with wearing masks. That's something that you need to look at. Apple has a design. It is something that you can download. Is that each school can be able to make that in the high school, that they can make those face shields for them. There is, like I said, being in the medical field, I was in the lab. We had to have something to protect our face, but I would not wear a mask. I would wear a face shield. Regarding the sexual education, I was one of those parents who tried to come and was able to get in. I was disappointed that when I went to the Vigo County School website, that there wasn't a link to a live YouTube that I could go to. I didn't know that there was going to be 3 different presentations on sex education, so I think communication could be a lot better. This is something that needs to be out on Twitter. It needs to be on the website, because as a parent, that's where I go, to the website. You can have a link that takes you to where you need to go. Because I wanted to listen to it out in the parking lot, and I had no access to it. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Hello again. I just wanted to make a comment to Mr. Purple. First off, he was on a roll with the Cooperative record. He's right about that. But the comprehensive sex education thing, he's 100% right about it. Let me tell you a mini story. My daughter's friend, girl, I picked her up and I said, "Hey, friend, what's your sexual education program like over in Illinois?" She didn't know because, COVID happened. But she tells me that a friend of hers told her that you could extract bone marrow and get pregnant by bone marrow. This is why it needs something that's accurate and on their level. And as I've said in other meetings, my daughter is lesbian, and it just boils down to the fact that she has the right to medically accurate, comprehensive sex education. Every child does, because they need to know how to take care of themselves. They need to know, I'm sorry. There's just so many things that go with comprehensive sex education at the appropriate age level that they need to know. I'm cracking out at that story. It's just, I don't even know what to say. Bottom line, my daughter has the right to, LGBTQ inclusive education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Can you step closer to the mic, please?
Thank you that during this meeting we have a lot to share our views. I have 4 children attended the Vigo Public School System. I have 3 grandchildren who will be attending within a few years. And I went online to learn about the CSC agenda. And I found that it encourages masturbation, having multiple sex partners is very graphic, as it describes it, about the multiple sex acts, some of which will be blocked if there's a filter on your computer because they are so pornographic. And the CSC agenda tells children that it's okay for them to have sex with whoever they want, even if that person is 30 years old, as long as it's their choice to do so. And it also shows cartoons where it teaches, in my opinion, encourage children to disrespect the opinions of their parents. And that's just the top of the iceberg. I became nauseous and shaken after I read that. That's what they, in the states and the counties where this is already in place, the things they're teaching our children, and now they want to bring it here. I became very concerned. And I have attended the last 3 CPR CSC meetings. And although I'm sorry, this is hard for me. Although I felt empathy for the victims of child molestation who share their stories during the CSC night, because I also was a victim of that when I was a child. Their pain was very real. It leaves a lot of long-term scars. But I am very concerned because I don't think, from what I have read and learned about the CSC program, I do not think it will protect our children from this. I think it will make them even more vulnerable to pedophiles and child molesters. I think it will incite in young children who are not ready emotionally or mentally for all that sex information, especially boys. I think it will make young boys more likely to attack young girls. And so I would ask each one of you board members, I know you're very busy, but please take the time to don't just follow the recommendations of the committee. And I mean nothing against you on the committee, but this is something I think will affect our children either positively or very negatively if the CSC's children. I just ask you to take at least 8 hours, watch all 3 of the previous meetings on this in their entirety, and also take 2 or 3 hours, just visit multiple sites online about the CSC program. Research for yourself what's in it.
30 seconds.
Okay. And I would just ask you, would you want your children or your grandchildren exposed to what's in this agenda? And do our children's lives matter? Thank you.
You can state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Kathy Benjamin.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. I'll keep my comments brief. But I want to address a few things. My name is Rebecca Losi. I'm the CPR coordinator. As the CPR coordinator, I believe in the November said that you're the only positive messages that your students are. We are 2% of your classroom experience. So out of 180 days of instruction, students receive 5 from us. We have been vetted pretty much extensively from every angle. We also provided last week medical and psychological professionals to attest to medical accuracy and age appropriate and dangers of not being age appropriate in the classroom. I would re-echo what Carrie said. Please come into the classroom and listen to it delivers. That will answer a lot of your questions about what's in the content, as well as reading it on your own. Also, we ask that you listen to the supporters that you had. I will echo the sentiments. It was difficult getting that many people together during the pandemic, but please listen to your supporters. We have many people here to support this. To talk about what the person in front of me also spoke about. We are sensitive to abuse in CPR. Talk about respect. In fact, that's instead of afraid, they want. We open it with respect. We also talk about date rating. We also help children to find their voice, to give them the tools to help protect themselves. It's a wonderful program. We exist to support your teachers and your students. Because sets the national guidelines for those CSC programs. Those national education guidelines were what was handed to you last week. CCAS sets those and also helps to set the standard for all CSC programs. My point here being, there are 2 types of public health programs. There's sexual risk avoidance and there's sexual risk reduction. PPR is a sexual risk avoidance approach. So if you're wanting to do away with that, that would mean you're going with the sexual risk reduction approach. And those are CSE programs. That's what we're trying to call attention to the board, the difference in those. So we simply ask that you would maintain the sexual risk avoidance approach, which reaches the majority of your students. What that does is that encourages those people who are not engaged in the risk first to continue those protective health behaviors, and then we seek to help those other 30% that are engaged in the risk to help either return to a risk-free status or learn how to better protect themselves. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ruth Fairbanks. I've spoken to you before. I want to give you a little head start on your homework assignment that I gave you. I'm going to help by reading from level 3 of the CPR curriculum. This would go to 8th graders. This is the entire section related to HIV/AIDS. Skin rashes can occur early or late in the course of HIV/AIDS.
These are not like run-of-the-mill allergies or a cold. They're like boils with some itchy pink areas on the arms. The rashes can also appear on the trunk of the body. And this is followed by a photo. This is the complete section on HIV taught to our 8th graders in this program. Now, it is true that our school corporation teachers also cover HIV education. Thank goodness, because it's Indiana law that our schools do cover that. And I don't think that the CPR curriculum passes muster at all. Is that medically accurate that HIV/AIDS can cause skin rashes that are like boils? Yes, that's medically accurate. Medical accuracy isn't the only standard for the delivery of useful and life-saving information. In the high school curriculum, HIV is mentioned 4 times, while marriage is mentioned 26 times. Marriage is mentioned now in abstinence in the high school curriculum. There are 20 pages of STDs in the curriculum for the high school. HIV receives just a passing, glancing mention, while there are nearly 2 full pages dedicated to pubic lice. Is the material on pubic lice medically accurate? Probably. Is it actually useful and good representation of health science to spend almost 2 pages on pubic lice and just glancingly mention HIV infection? The CPR curriculum is 4 years, 4 weeks of our students' lives. Never mentions the HPV vaccine. Although they dwell heavily on HPV, they never mention the vaccine, which is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. The HPV vaccine prevents HPV transmission and protects against genital warts, cervical neoplasia, and cancer. It's the standard of care for girls since 2006, and it's also the standard of care for boys for many years. The absence of any coverage of the HPV vaccine in the CPR curriculum indicates a lack of expertise or a failure to meet guidelines on providing medically accurate and up-to-date information. The CPR curriculum also fails to mention PEP and PrEP. PEP and PrEP are pills. When taken correctly, these pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylactics reduce the risk of HIV infection through sex or injection drug abuse by 99%. Shall I just talk louder? Okay, stop my time. Recording my time.
We stopped you at 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, okay. These have been effectively used since 2012. These are really important for us to consider. We should know in Indiana, because we have seen an uptick in some counties in Indiana in HIV infection, and it's closely linked to the opioid epidemic. So these are important and life-saving information that our curriculum should be provided. I encourage you to look at this curriculum. If you are looking for some unsavory portions, I recommend level 1, page 32 to 35, or my favorite, level 2, page 48. But there's others that I could go into. I also encourage you, however, to look at other curriculum. It is not true that there are only 2 kinds of curriculum. There are lots of differences in curriculum. And you can find abstinence-focused sexual health education curriculum that is medically up to date and accurate and useful and does not shame our students.
30 seconds.
Okay. Experts in a lot of different healthcare professions, including the AMA, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, Also, that it's important that students receive medically accurate, up-to-date information that is inclusive of those students. Thank you. Happy reading.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Margaret Berdlick, and I just wanted to reiterate one point that Ruth made, and something that we also heard when we heard the other side tonight. But this idea that there is abstinence-only education, such as CPR, and that the only other thing is this really scary boogeyman called CSE, is just a totally false dichotomy. You know, there are things like abstinence plus, and all you need to do is look at some of these curricula to see that they're not scary, that we're not teaching pornography to kids, that we're not, I mean, words like pedophilia, these words that we're hearing are so offensive, and they're so not representative of what the people who want change are seeking. So please, let's not get caught up in this sort of hysterical conversation. It's really upsetting. We're trying to talk reasonably, have reasonable change in the interest of what's best for our children. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Myers, and I heard a lot of comments tonight about talking about including all our students. But I looked at the curriculum for the current sex ed CPR, and it does not include all students in any way, shape, or form. It is heavily representative of heteronorms. It does not include LGBTQ. It doesn't even have pictures of same-sex couples, and it also does not have any kind of differentiated instruction for people with disabilities. It doesn't give pictures of people with disabilities. It doesn't talk about any issues with people with disabilities. Because 16% of this county are people with disabilities. And how can you say that it's inclusive if you are excluding that population, and that population grows, and it's a population that, minority population that anybody can join at any time? All that our group is asking is for a review of the current curriculum so that we can be inclusive of all students with information that is medically up-to-date, accurate, and useful to all students, no matter the choice. Because right now, CPR, whether they need to or not, their curriculum is hurting a portion and population of our students. We've heard it over several listening sessions, how it was harmful because there were certain populations that were not representative and that are voiceless. I've stood up here in front of you and recited statistics of sexual violence and sexual assault against people with disabilities, and that the majority of them do not have any access or differentiated instruction in sex ed. And that makes a difference that impacts those statistics and those numbers. Please, reevaluate, and let's find a better curriculum. I know as educators, we know the very trite, tired saying of know better, do better. Thank you.
My name is Tim Ramsey. I addressed you this group last week. I'm sorry. Dr. Hayward, President of the Board. We've seen a lot of stuff. We've heard a lot of remarks being made, mostly generalizations, a lot of anecdotal remarks. The biggest thing that I'm greatly concerned about is that we have not seen both sides of the argument in the sense that we have seen comprehensive sex curriculum at all. We've not seen the budget. You guys are in the midst of trying to determine how many elementary schools to keep open, how many teachers to keep employed. We have a program that is used to be inclusive with nothing more than an anecdotal remark. I think that's a bit unwise and not it's irresponsible. I think one of the best things you could do as a board at this point in time is to find some curriculum to evaluate with the CFC group. Right now, it's a ghost. And I think that's irresponsible to compare one. I can find fault with anything if I've got nothing to go up against. Just like the situation tonight where you're presenting, I can find fault with that. But the thing is, you guys have done a job that we'd love you to do, and I'm impressed as even these gentlemen with insurance companies. One of the best ones we've seen so far by their definition. So we have to look at both sides of this issue. We have to see what the CFC is protecting. Right now, I've seen nothing. I don't know where the money's going to come from to even pay for it. We're going to take teachers out of classrooms to teach it, when they should be teaching the classes they've been hired to teach originally. Right now, you've got a CPR program that's totally funded by private funds, totally transparent. And the curriculum's been out there for, what, 20 years plus? And it's been transparent, yet we have seen nothing from the CSE group. I think it's time to start seeing something. Otherwise, we don't know what to even discuss. And in addition to that situation, sexual education is sex education, not gender identity issues. And that's what we need to focus on. Not gender identity, but sexual education. And when you're only teaching 5 days a year, 5 days a year for CPR, that's not comprehensive. So to compare that to an additional bunch of curriculum that's being taught by the school corporation, that's a collaborative effort. Don't expect CPR to be comprehensive in a medical fashion. It's going to be complete. It's a partnership with the rest of the school corporation's material. That's key. In 5 days in a school year, you're not going to get every aspect of medical teaching. That's what we're leaving the schools to do as well. So you have to look at this in a bigger picture. And you have to take away the anecdotal stories. Everybody's got a story. I can find fault with anything. People can find fault with me, and all can do it. But I want to thank you guys, just especially for the work that you're putting into this. And especially for the work you're putting into just getting us back into a school, which is to me much more tantamount to the issue right now of CPI and CSE. We need to get the kids back to school. Let's deal with the other stuff after that's accomplished. Thank you.
My name is Parental. I just wanted to speak on sexual education. And I just want to speak on the issue of not having healthy conversations and what how that translates to our kids, and where our children are going to be able to find this easily accessible. Not going to find it from their families. They're going to go on the internet and they're going to look up, and they're going to see all this porn, and they're going to see all this violence depicted at them and other adults. And that's my biggest concern of not having healthy conversations in our schools, because we don't have healthy conversations in our schools. They can have families, and their identity is going to be distorted, and their sexuality, and how that is actually going to be represented in the way that they have said. And I just think that we need to be very aware of the messages that we're sending, because I was a child of sexual abuse, and that was by my stepfather. That has no one to go to. My family did not protect me, and I wish that the school would have been there, that would have been a safe place for me to go and share my story. And I see that reflected in so many children today. And I feel like I would be doing a big disservice if I didn't say my story. don't think children, are getting the accurate of what sex and love really looks like when they are going to be outside. So that's all I have.
Or Dr. Hayward. My name is Paul Downey. I'm just going to read a few things tonight. Over the last year, we've had a lot of professionals spoken on the current sex education program that we have, the curriculum. Again, like Rebecca said, I echo that. It's only a small portion, but your health and science teachers that are licensed already for that. So, as far as the addressing all the desires of the LGBTQ community to affirm all various operations of that is really, in my opinion, a mistake that would create a more hostile environment for all these. As reported before, CSE creates a much more sex-oriented environment which potentially and at the very least distract from quality education. Additionally, you've read before, American Academy of Pediatrics says it's harmful and not the school's responsibility for all. They say, quote unquote, it's not the school's role to diagnose, treat, and do these medical, and certainly not the school's role to affirm that students receive personal sexual orientation. I would like to read just a few of the creating positive relationship feedback from the students. This is anonymous for students. And the first one was, I learned that it's always important to tell an adult if you are asked for or received treat development. I also learned that no matter what happens, you are always worth something. I will choose abstinence. And as I remind you too, last Monday night, we heard from the CPR instructor that had 6 abuse cases come to her next. 1 hour in class, 5 days a week, 1 week, 6 different students over the course of 2 years reported abuse to the CPR instructor. Not their teacher, not their other adult in their life, and not their parent. Another one was talking about abstinence made a huge impact on me. Talking to my parents helped too. My parents said me at age 19, they said it was because they never talked. This week they made a positive impact. Another one, I've learned that you're worth something with CPR. You don't have to give yourself to someone so you can fit in. I've also learned that if you're around people that support you, then you'll make positive decisions. Another one was, I've learned to respect myself. I want to thank you for coming to our school and talking about these things. You helped me communicate with my parents more, and that makes me so happy. I actually get to spend time with them, so I thank you. I learned that with my boyfriend, I don't have to give him what he wants to do. Right? I'm doing abstinence because I want to sit back at home and I get older. I want to concentrate on that. Those are just a few of them. I also sent you a link before. This is, when I pull it up, it says this article actually CSE quotes. I'm not going to read that. This came out February 23rd, 2020. So what this one girl did say, what CSE did to her school, and this is in Washington. I'd like to tell you what the sex education curriculum said to our school in the last year. Feeling violated is unhuman. Sexual harassment is unhuman. Lack of respect is unhuman. Graphic detail, pornographic images, and inappropriate assignments have become a part of it. Sex has now become the main topic of every conversation from the start of the school day to the end.
Boys may lose in the mean comments, and it's treated like, after all, it's just a home, right? This is very culture, and our school has turned toxic, especially with girls. Thank you so much.
Seeing no more, we'll move on to any reports from board members. I think we've talked about sex education. Been the information gathering stage so far. And then move forward.
So I don't believe that on Wednesday, we should receive.
Is it working? We have said this at our other sessions, so some of you may or may not have heard before, but we are not considering another program. I'm not really sure how this, I'm calling it a rumor, seems to have made its way through the community that we are entertaining another curriculum. We've heard all these explicit details. I can't speak for the rest of these people, but I have no intention of involving porn and all of these extreme sexual details in anything that I would advocate for. But I do advocate for medical accuracy, for kindness, for inclusion, and I think that's what we as a group want to commit to. So I think this has really been a sad thing with this, all of you have exhausted yourself on something that has never once been considered by this board. Thank you.
Out tomorrow for a
Keeping in mind that, yeah.
I will be there. Thank you. Hank's telling us he will not be, so.
We can work on it. So it says on here our next board meeting is August 10th, but Dr. Hayward said posting something before that, so we'll see you sometime between now